Hello and welcome to Team Franco Bodybuilding Podcast. Hoping you guys are doing fantastic, getting it done both in and out of the gym. And we're going to change pace a little bit where, as you guys know, sometimes I'll read stuff on social media that either influences me or irks me. So therefore I get an idea to talk about on my podcast to give you my opinion for whatever it's worth. And hopefully it's worth something, only because I've been at this many years. And that's why this topic at hand is something I feel I can address. Because if you know, or if you don't know, I started competing in the 1990s. So I've been on both ends of the spectrum as far as watching and seeing how bodybuilding competitions have changed over the years. The first 10 years of competing, or even more, were just me competing, and then started coaching clients. And then obviously, being an OCB promoter for the last 20 plus years, it gives me an additional outlook. And also being able to reach more people and coaching a variety of type of people, it enhances my outlook. Where part of it, I think some of it is maturity. I'm not ashamed to admit it, where I've matured over time. But not to say it's affected or will interfere with my competitiveness, both as a client, both as a competitor myself, which I'm still as competitive as I was when I was 19 doing my first show, and for my clients. I'm very competitive, meaning I want them to ultimately reach their goal, put their nose to the grindstone, to push it, no matter what their starting point is. But unfortunately, there are, and excuse my French, a lot of douchebags out there who probably never really competed, or maybe one time competed, so they have the biggest opinions. And they'll mock people for stepping on stage, not being as lean as maybe they thought they were, or maybe it's not fitting their criteria that an organization has. And that kind of irks me. And I think when people put that kind of material out, busting people's chops and making fun of people, they're just trying to get some clicks, some conversation started. And you'll get people agreeing with them, like, oh yeah, did you see that girl? She was so heavy. Or that guy, he had no lower body. What's he doing in bodybuilding? I mean, you'll hear all that. Not that I was that way in the 90s, because honestly, I was just focusing on myself and beating others. And I didn't care. I had blinders on when I was backstage. I had blinders on when I was on stage. What mattered to me was to impress the judges the most, so I am the one that's picked to win. But in today's day and age, with social media, everyone posting, and everything that goes on, people then have a greater opinion. So obviously, these people need to speak out. So that is why I'm going to talk about a few different things, which I already covered, but the title of this one is Mind Your Own Prep. Why judging others has nothing to do with you winning, because again, it is you versus you. So getting into the topic, I may ruffle a few feathers, but I don't give a shit. I'm just giving you an opinion, an observation, and really the big take-home point will be continue to focus on yourself. If you're a competitor and you're stepping on stage, point number one, mind your own business. I see it at the shows that I promote. I see it at the shows that I judge. When I walk around, there's whispers, and unfortunately people have to make comments. And sometimes when I'm watching my show from the front row, and really to be accessible to everyone that working the show knows where I'm at, you hear whispers, right behind me. Like, oh, what's that person doing on stage? Or what are they thinking? They don't know how to pose, or whatever the case may be. And I get it. if you've never been to a competition and you've been following your buddy, your girlfriend, your wife, or whatever, and they look fantastic, you think that is the only type of physique that should be on stage. It may be true, but have some respect, because that person whispering behind me may be actually sitting next to the person that's supporting the person that you're making fun of. So that's problem number one. And the truth of the matter, when you're even watching the show, focus on that person that you're there, support them, keep your mouth shut, because your opinion just simply doesn't matter. You know, if you are a competitor and you start focusing on others, you know, there's no reason to. You got to continue to focus on yourself, your job at hand. So the first segment that I want to cover is, you know, the old school mindset. And yes, that's why I was saying in the beginning, I competed in the 90s. And yeah, shows have really changed over the years where they are more welcoming. You know, shows have really developed to be showcases. And that's just evolution. If you agree with it or not, whatever. You know, I think I'm pretty representative of like keeping the shows basic, because that's the type of guy that I am. And I just want good stage time, good presentation of the venue, efficiency, quality, all those things. I'm not a showman, but especially that maybe that's because it's ingrained in me, because again, in the 90s, the shows that I did were real basic, and that's what bodybuilding was. You get on stage, you hit the poses, you work hard for it, and you left it all on stage. You didn't care about anything else. And I'll be the first to admit, you know, back in the day, I was ruthless. I was very competitive. I still am. You know, I would look around a little bit backstage, not a whole lot, but really I never, ever questioned why someone was there. I just wanted to make sure that I was better than everyone else, you know. And if you competed long enough and you're dialed in and you're hungry for that win, again, you're focusing on yourself, maybe checking out the competition, but the thought is not asking why they're there, but the thought really comes down to, you know what, I think I got him, or wow, that dude's legs are really good. It's going to be a battle. You know, the mindset that I had was very competitive, not giving a shit, only if I thought someone was better than me. But then again, you know, as you guys know, when you step on stage, it's always in a different light. But as the years go on, you know, coaching especially changes the perspective of what you feel and what you learn. You know, fast forward many years, and I guess maybe 20 years ago is when I really got dived into coaching, especially then promoting, judging. You don't see bodies as much. Obviously, if you're judging, you have a job at hand and you need to judge appropriately. But you're not judging if the person or the individual per se, because you don't know their background. You start seeing people a little bit better. You realize that person that originally you thought may not be there, you don't know their history. And this is what I have learned and what I've matured about, because you hear stories, you promote these shows, you hear the backgrounds of what some of these people may have overcome. Where back in the 90s, there was no social media, no sharing. And really, you can't be thinking they don't belong. Now, there's many cases, you know, someone could be down 80 pounds. Someone could be a cancer survivor. Someone could spend years rebuilding their confidence. Someone maybe always wanted to compete, and they finally follow through on a promise that they made to themselves. For them, stepping on stage is not necessarily about winning. It's a marker. It's making a moment. It's a celebration of progress. And honestly, who the hell are we to take that away from them? Right? As a coach, I wouldn't, because ultimately, I want someone to look the best they ever have. And if they're comfortable going on stage and they are prepared, then I'm going to support them during the journey. Now, if they're really way off, yes, I will say something where not necessarily that they can't compete, but just maybe someone needs more time. Maybe they need more practice in posing. Maybe they need better composure, more confidence. And all those little things are still something to strive for. But ultimately, if they feel comfortable in their own skin, we should not judge them for that, because they're going to be judged properly by the judges. Where if there's 8 people on stage, yeah, maybe they will come in last place, but they don't care. So why should you as a competitor care about that? And that is leading into my next point. This is the hard truth that competitors need to hear, and here's the reality of it all. If you were truly there to win, you're not watching anyone else. Yeah, you may eye people up, other great competitors, which I was guilty of doing. You're not, worried about everyone's conditioning. You're not bothered by seeing anyone else backstage, because judges are still going to judge. Competitors are going to compete. Everyone gets the placement that they earn. So, in essence, everything's going to work out. If you're there to win your pro card, or if you've been on the edge of winning your pro card, you're going to battle it out. And that's all you need to do is focus on yourself. Again, you're there to win. Great. I'm all on board about winning. I'm competitive. But if someone has one of these stories and is using a competition as a goal to help increase their habits, to continue to lose a lot of weight, to come back from the sickness, to come back from their life event of maybe going through a divorce or losing their job and using this as a health benefit for psychological reasons, and they don't care if they come in last, then why should you care? Remember, this sport is voluntarily. Competing is still a choice. It's not a privilege just reserved for the few, where you got to respect everyone's journey. But again, there's no reason to make these points on social media about ripping someone. Because if you're there to win, that's all you need to focus on. And really, it comes down to a freedom of choice and reminding yourself to stay in your own lane. You don't get bonus points for gatekeeping and making fun of people that you feel that shouldn't be on the stage. You're not going to get leaner because you're judging someone else. And you're sure hell not going to win because you're distracted by another competitor. You're not going to win. I mean, if someone wants to compete, let them compete. If they're proud of themselves, then yes, let them be proud. It's none of your damn business anyway. You need to remember it's you versus you. Your job is to bring your best, focus on your prep, execute everything on show day, and then everything else is noise. You want that tunnel vision on. And then it even goes to the point, like, if you compare yourself to someone else that looks great, and then you start getting worried and anxious, again, it's out of your control. So I think that is where you really need to put the blinders on and screw it and just enjoy the whole day itself and the process that you worked your ass off and not care about anyone else. I get it. Times have changed. They really have, as far as the competition world. A lot of times it is a celebration for those. And if you were to ask me this 30 years ago, I would be like, really? No way. But over time, obviously being exposed to more people, coaching clients, promoting shows, the many, many shows, and judging many shows, you get it, okay? It is what it is. And it's something for me as a judge and a promoter I don't care about, because ultimately I want to give the best experience to everyone who signs up. Now, the gray area is social media. And it really has come into play, because, again, these idiots on social media are the ones saying that you should not compete, not because, they just simply feel like, you know what, you shouldn't bother because you don't look good. And I believe I can go on and on about this, where it really is another episode where people just need to mind their own fucking business and not make themselves out to be someone who knows what they're talking about. Again, and I would say a lot of these people are not even competitors. So the bottom line, if you're stepping on stage, no matter what level competitor that you are, run your race. Someone else's journey is not going to threaten yours, guys. It really isn't. So there's no reason to make fun of anyone, to question them. It's not going to diminish your hard work. Someone else's presence is not going to affect your placing, right? You're going to be judged appropriately. Someone has to win. Someone has to come in last. And if you're too busy worrying about who belongs on stage, you're losing focus. I think that is one of the take-home points here, because, again, it's you versus you. Screw everyone else. Mind your own prep. Let the judges do their own job. And respect the fact that everyone has a story that you simply don't know. And that is the reasoning for this podcast, where, again, bodybuilding is always evolving, especially in the OCB, all good stuff. We want to welcome everyone, but also remember you're going to be judged properly. And if you're out there to win, I'm all on board. If you're out there to compete for the first time because you want to check it off on a list of things to do, so be it. It is what it is. We have one life, and we should just lead it how we please. So I'm going to sign off. Just opinions of mine that I wanted to share with you guys to let you know where I am as a promoter, a coach, and a fan of the sport. Keep on driving. Keep on focusing on yourself. If this message resonates with you, I would love to hear your feedback, whether if it's good, bad, or ugly. And of course, if you're ever interested in coaching, feel free to hit me up. fitfranco@verizon.net is the best way to email me. Check out my other stuff. I don't know. I'm lost for words now. Other stuff as far as social media goes, Team Franco Bodybuilding. Talk to you next time.